a rocket-propelled grenade with a red stripe across its warhead. October 7, 2023. A kibbutz in southern Israel. Within hours, Israeli forensic teams, South Korean military intelligence, and Associated Press weapons analysts had all reached the same conclusion. The grenade was made in Pyongyang, 8,000 kilometers away, by a country that has no border with Israel, no formal relationship with Hamas, and that officially denies arming anyone. That single weapon opened a door. Behind it, 7 decades of secret deals, smuggled shipments, fake markings, and a global distribution network that has placed North Korean guns in the hands of guerrillas, militias, terrorist organizations, and standing armies across 4 continents. North Korea is one of the poorest countries on Earth. It is also one of the most prolific small arms exporters in history. This is the complete story of every weapon they built, and exactly where those weapons ended up. Chapter 1. Born in a factory nobody wanted. In 1949, the Soviet Union handed North Korea a production line they no longer needed. It was tooled to produce the PPSH-41 submachine gun, a weapon already being phased out of Soviet frontline service. Kim Il-sung's engineers took it, moved it to a factory in Jeoncheon, and built North Korea's first indigenous weapon, the Type 49. Mechanically, it was identical to the Soviet original. Same blowback operation, same 900 round per minute cyclic rate, same 7.62 by 25 mm Tokarev cartridge. 2 details set it apart. The North Korean stock had a slightly oval cross-section, and the Type 49 only accepted drum magazines because the factory never came with the tooling for box magazines. Kim Il-sung reportedly preferred the drum anyway. He thought it looked more intimidating. Production ran until 1955. The guns were everywhere. North Vietnamese forces received them during the war. Communist movements across Angola, Mozambique, Uganda, and Tanzania were armed with them throughout the 1970s. By that decade, North Korea was issuing PPSH clones to tank crews as a sidearm substitute, because manufacturing pistols was simply too expensive. A weapon designed in the Soviet Union, built in North Korea, fired in conflicts on 3 continents. A borrowed production line that armed a generation of insurgencies. That same practicality, build what you can from what you have, would define every North Korean weapon that followed. Chapter 2. The officer's sidearm and the dictator's taste. North Korea's pistol program tells you more about the country's power structure than any intelligence report. These were never export weapons. They were status objects, internal tools, and in one case, the product of a single man's personal preference. The Type 64 came first, a copy of the Browning Model 1900 in .32 ACP, a gun already considered obsolete in 1910. North Korea reverse-engineered it because they had a sample and could. It went to senior officers and security services. Nobody outside the country ever received one officially. The Type 70 followed. This was North Korea's first genuinely indigenous pistol design, a single-action blowback in .32 ACP with a crossbolt safety that also functions as the barrel retaining latch. Stripping the weapon requires removing the safety first. Simple, unusual, and entirely homegrown. The Type 68 pistol came next, not to be confused with the assault rifle of the same designation. This was a hybrid. The overall layout of the Soviet Tokarev TT-33, combined with a barrel design borrowed from the Belgian Browning High Power. Standard issue for mid-ranking KPA officers who were not senior enough for something better. Then came the Bec du San. In the late 1980s, North Korea's defense establishment replaced all existing sidearms with a weapon that nobody in the procurement committee chose. Kim Jong-il, the supreme leader's son and designated successor, was an avid firearms collector. He handled a CZ-75 and decided it would be North Korea's next service pistol. No committee overruled him. The result is a near-perfect copy of the Czech original, chambered in 9 by 19 mm parabellum, named after the country's most sacred volcano. Plain black models with wooden grips go to special forces. Gold-inlaid ceremonial versions go to generals. A confidential UN report documented North Korean automatic pistols being delivered to the Presidential Guard of the Democratic Republic of Congo. The Baek Du-san remains in production today. The only military pistol on Earth adopted because a dictator liked the feel of the original. That personal touch extended to something far more consequential. Chapter 3. The AK Network. 7 decades of deliberate misdirection. The assault rifle program is where North Korea stopped being a recipient of Soviet generosity and became a global arms supplier in its own right. It started with a license, became a mass production operation, and then evolved into something more sophisticated. A system deliberately designed to make its weapons untraceable. In 1958, the Soviets licensed the AK-47 to North Korea. 2 factories, Plant 61 and Plant 65 near Chongjin in the northeast, began producing the Type 58. Milled receiver, 30-round magazine, 650 rounds per minute, 7.62 by 39 millimeters. Approximately 800,000 were manufactured over the following decade. The weapon is distinguishable from the Soviet original only by its proof marks. A 5-pointed star inside a circle stamped into the receiver. Those 800,000 rifles went to North Vietnam, to communist movements across sub-Saharan Africa, to Zimbabwe's 5th Brigade under Robert Mugabe, to leftist guerrilla organizations in Central America. In 2023, forensic analysis of weapons recovered from the October 7th attack sites in southern Israel identified Type 58 rifles among the weapons carried by Hamas fighters. A gun manufactured in the 1960s North Korea, recovered on an Israeli kibbutz 60 years later. The Type 58-1 added an underfolding stock, compact, vehicle-compatible, easier to conceal. Exported alongside the standard model, counted within the same 800,000 production estimate. Then, in 1968, North Korea introduced the Type 68, stamped receiver, AKM layout, underfolding stock option on the Type 68-1. Lighter, cheaper to produce, and the beginning of something deliberate. The Type 68 became the most widely exported North Korean weapon ever made. It reached El Salvador, where Marxist guerrillas called it the AK Korea. It reached Peru, purchased in 1986 at 75 to 80% below world market price, a deal openly acknowledged by the Peruvian government because the savings were simply too large to refuse. It was photographed in Puntland, Somalia, recovered from conflict zones in Iraq and Libya, documented by conflict armament research in Syrian arms bazaars with North Korean star markings still visible on the receiver. But some Type 68s had no star markings at all. Some had SAR selector stamps, identical to the selector stamps used on Romanian and Egyptian AKM copies. Some sold to Arabic-speaking markets had Arabic lettering on the receiver. A North Korean weapon, dressed as a Romanian gun, or an Egyptian gun, or simply an unmarked gun that could have come from anywhere. There is one tell. The Type 68 has a small rib, an indent machined into the inside of the trigger guard. No other AKM variant in the world has it. Under magnification, on a weapon with every other marking removed, that rib gives the weapon away. North Korea built in the disguise but left the fingerprint. In the late 1980s, the rifle program changed again. Without a license from Moscow and without confirmed Chinese cooperation, North Korean engineers reverse-engineered the AK-74 and introduced the Type 88. Same platform, new caliber. 5.45 by 39 millimeters. The smaller, faster cartridge that replaced 7.62 by 39 millimeters in Soviet service after Afghanistan. The Type 88 became the standard KPA service rifle. Some versions accepted helical drum magazines capable of holding 100 to 150 rounds, seen carried by Kim Jong-un's personal bodyguard unit. The magazines attach simultaneously to the magazine well and the bayonet lug. The Type 98 is the Type 88 with polymer furniture and a slightly revised receiver. Often misidentified as a different weapon entirely. Photographed in Africa and Syria, despite no confirmed formal export orders. In 2023, following North Korea's deployment of troops and artillery to support Russia in Ukraine, a new rifle appeared. Modular layout. Resemblance to the FN SCAR and Czech CZ-805. Available in 5.45 by 39 millimeters and, for the first time in North Korean service history, 5.56 by 45 millimeter NATO. The stock directly copies the AK-12 2020 model. The analysis from South Korean and Western intelligence is consistent. The design reflects technology transferred from Russia in exchange for North Korean shells and soldiers. The newest North Korean assault rifle is a direct product of the war in Ukraine. Chapter 4. The Machine Guns. One mystery, one workhorse, one ghost. While the rifle program tells the story of North Korea's export ambitions, the machine gun program tells you something different. It tells you about a country willing to invest in weapons so unusual that the world's intelligence services spent decades trying to understand them. The Type 73 is the machine gun nobody expected to find anywhere. It fires 7.62 by 54R, the same rimmed cartridge used in the Soviet PKM. But where the PKM feeds exclusively from a metal belt, the Type 73 does something no other general-purpose machine gun does. It accepts both a linked belt fed from the side and a top-mounted vertical 30-round magazine simultaneously. The magazine is proprietary. It is incompatible with every North Korean assault rifle ever made, which uses 7.62 by 39 millimeters, or 5.45 by 39 millimeters. In a firefight, a Type 73 gunner cannot share ammunition with the rifleman next to him. The dual-feed system has never been fully explained by any Western analyst. The design draws on the Czech 5Z 52/57 light machine gun, a Cold War weapon with its own distinctive top-loading magazine. North Korean engineers combined that concept with the PKM's operating mechanism. The result is a weapon that functions, that is documented in service, and that remains one of the most operationally puzzling firearms of the 20th century. In February and March of 2016, Australian and French naval vessels intercepted wooden dhow boats in the Arabian Sea. Below deck, Type 73 machine guns. Conflict armament research documented the seizure and traced the supply chain. The weapons were linked to Iran. The destination was almost certainly Houthi rebels in Yemen. Outside of Iran, North Korea, and the South Korean military, which holds a deactivated example from a separate interception, no other confirmed holder of the Type 73 exists. The Type 82 replaced it in standard service in 1982 with no ambiguity. A straightforward PKM copy. belt-fed only. 7.62 by 54R, no magazine option, no check influence. It became the standard squad support weapon of the Korean People's Army and stays there. Its operational advantage as an export item is precisely its simplicity. It fires the same ammunition and uses the same belts as every Soviet-supplied military and every militia that ever received PKM machine guns. Drop a Type 82 into a conflict zone, and it disappears into the logistics chain immediately. Documented in use by Iran-backed formations in Syria. Identified in Houthi-held areas of Yemen through the same Iran distribution pipeline that moved the Type 73s. The Type 88 and Type 98 battalion machine gun is the light support variant of the standard rifle series, chambered in 5.45 by 39 millimeters, functionally equivalent to the Soviet RPK. Squad-level fire support weapon. No confirmed exports. Then there is the gun too. In 1995, an arms dealer sold 6 previously unrecorded miniguns to an undisclosed Southeast Asian country. The weapons were North Korean. Electrically powered Gatling design, 6 rotating barrels, chambered in 7.62 by 54R, with a proprietary forward-stripping link belt designed around the cartridge's heavy rim. A manual in English was obtained by researchers. No Western expert has physically examined a sample. The buyer country has never been officially named. Fewer than a dozen people outside North Korea's defense industry have seen one. Chapter 5. The RPG Trail. From Bangkok to Gaza. If the assault rifle program built North Korea's global small arms network, the rocket-propelled grenade program is where that network became catastrophic. 2 weapons. Decades of movement through Iran, Syria, and onward. And a moment in October 2023, when everything became impossible to deny. The Type 69 is North Korea's copy of the Soviet RPG-7. Direct reverse engineering. Same trigger mechanism, same caliber, same operational profile. Produced in large quantities. Exported to practically every client North Korea has ever supplied. The delivery method became systematic. North Korean vessels would declare bulk cargo, typically iron ore or construction materials. Beneath the ore, rocket-propelled grenades. In 2016, a North Korean ship intercepted near Egypt was found carrying 30,000 RPGs and their subcomponents, hidden under tons of mineral ore. The same technique appeared in a shipment seized en route to Eritrea in July of that year. UN panel of experts reports documented the pattern repeatedly across Libya, Syria, and the Horn of Africa. In December 2009, Thai authorities grounded a North Korean cargo aircraft at Bangkok's Suvarnabhumi airport during a routine refueling stop. Below deck, 35 tons of arms, including rockets and RPGs, valued at approximately $18 million. The declared destination was Iran. United States intelligence confirmed in 2012 that the shipment was ultimately bound for Hamas and Hezbollah. A North Korean plane stopped in Thailand, carrying weapons meant for Gaza and Lebanon via Iran. The F-7 is the evolved variant. Visually similar to the Type 69, with one distinctive identifier, a red stripe across the warhead. The payload and warhead shape indicate it was designed primarily as an anti-personnel weapon rather than anti-armor, intended to kill people in open terrain rather than penetrate tank protection. On October 7, 2023, Hamas fighters used it. Propaganda videos released before the attack showed fighters with F-7 launchers. IDF forces recovered F-7 warheads on Israeli soil, the red stripe intact, alongside other North Korean weapons, including Type 58 rifles. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff officially identified the F-7 by name. Matt Schroeder of the Small Arms Survey, who wrote the definitive guide to North Korean light weapons, confirmed the identification. N.R. Jensen Jones of Armament Research Services confirmed it independently. South Korean military sources also reported that some of the multiple rocket launchers found near the Israeli border after the attack had the words Bang 122 stenciled on them in Korean script. 122mm rockets, labeled in the language of the country that built them, found in a field in southern Israel. North Korea denied everything. The red stripe on the warhead did not. The F-7's supply route runs through Iran and Syria. North Korea sells to Tehran. Tehran moves weapons through Damascus. Damascus facilitates delivery to Gaza. 4 countries, 0 formal acknowledgement from any of them. The F-7 has been documented in Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, and Gaza across multiple conflict events, spanning more than a decade before October 2023. Chapter 6: Mortars, MANPADS, and the factories that never close. The weapons covered so far are the ones intelligence analysts can trace. The mortars are the ones they usually cannot. North Korea produces all 3 standard Soviet mortar calibers: 60mm light infantry support, 82mm medium, and 120mm heavy. The 82mm is a copy of the Soviet M37. The 120mm follows the M43 design. All 3 entered production decades ago and have never left it. Mortar tubes are steel cylinders. They carry no serial numbers accessible during field recovery, no proof marks visible without disassembly, no visual identifiers equivalent to the Type 68's trigger guard rib or the F-7's red stripe. Ammunition can sometimes be traced through head stamp analysis, but only if investigators have site access and the specific expertise to read North Korean production codes. In most conflict zones, neither condition is met. North Korean mortars went to Zimbabwe's 5th Brigade in the 1980s, to Uganda, Tanzania, Syria, Iran, and Libya. A 2019 UN panel of experts report on Yemen cited North Korean supply of small arms and military equipment to Houthi rebels. Mortar components were standard inclusions in those shipments. They are the invisible layer of North Korea's export portfolio. The shoulder-fired air defense weapons are less invisible, but not by much. The Hwasong-Chong is North Korea's copy of the Soviet 9K-32 Strela II, the SA-7 Grail. Infrared homing. First-generation guidance. Effective against low-flying aircraft and helicopters up to around 4,200 meters. Pyongyang supplied these to Hezbollah in Lebanon, where they contributed to air denial operations during the 2006 war with Israel. A UN investigation documented a Mozambican contract worth $6 million that included shoulder-launched surface-to-air missiles alongside radar systems. The Syrian pipeline moved them onward to Gaza and Yemen. The more sophisticated system is the North Korean copy of the 9K-38 Igla-S second-generation guidance. Higher ceiling, better resistance to decoy flares. A deactivated example was recovered from the wreckage of a North Korean intelligence vessel impounded by Japan. Its presence on a clandestine spy ship tells you it was not traveling to a military parade. Between the invisible mortars and the traced MANPADS sits the AGS-17 clone, a 30mm automatic grenade launcher copied from the Soviet Plamya system, advertised openly in North Korean defense export brochures. Maximum range 1,700 meters. Area suppression. The brochure exists, which means the sales pitch is real and the production is confirmed. No forensic recovery has been publicly documented, but export catalogs are not produced for weapons that do not exist. And then there is the NKOICW, unveiled at the 2017 Day of the Sun Parade. A composite weapon system combining an assault rifle with an integrated automatic grenade launcher, conceptually equivalent to the U.S. Army's Objective Individual Combat Weapon program. It represents North Korea developing infantry systems that go beyond Soviet reverse engineering. No export record. No confirmed production numbers outside state media imagery. But it exists, and North Korea built it. The infrastructure that never stopped 25 weapons. Pistols carried by officers in Pyongyang. Rifles recovered from massacres in Israel. Machine guns intercepted on boats in the Arabian Sea. Rocket-propelled grenades fired through the streets of Gaza. Mortar tubes that vanish into conflict zones without a trace. MANPADS that traveled on intelligence vessels. Grenade launchers advertised in export catalogs. The common thread is not ideology, it is infrastructure. North Korea built a system for moving weapons across the world that has operated continuously for over 70 years. A system that uses diplomatic pouches that customs cannot open. Bulk cargo that hides weapons under ore. Fake selector markings that make a North Korean AKM look Romanian. And a distribution hub in Tehran that adds a layer of deniability between Pyongyang and every downstream recipient. KOMID, the Korea Mining Development Trading Corporation, is the official commercial arm of that system. Bureau 39 of the Workers' Party generates the cash. Diplomatic missions in Cairo, Damascus, and Yangon handle the brokering until ambassadors get expelled for it. And Iran handles distribution to Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis, absorbing the reputational cost so North Korea does not have to. In Africa, the model goes further. North Korea does not just sell weapons to Ethiopia, Madagascar, Uganda, and Namibia. It builds the factories. It trains the technicians. It creates dependency relationships that persist long after the initial contract expires. An Ethiopian defense official acknowledged buying North Korean lubricants and ammunition chemicals because they were 50% cheaper than Chinese prices. The quality was lower. The price was low enough that it did not matter. In 2022, Russia began paying for North Korean artillery shells with military technology. The new North Korean rifle unveiled in 2023 reflects that payment. 8 million artillery shells followed. Then came the KN-23 ballistic missiles, tested at scale in the skies over Ukraine. The weapons program that spent 70 years arming proxy conflicts is now directly funding the modernization of the Korean People's Army through a live war in Europe. The Type 49's production line was handed to North Korea because nobody wanted it. The Bayek Dusan exists because a dictator liked the feel of a Czech pistol. The Type 73 machine gun was built with a dual-feed system that still confuses weapons analysts 50 years later. The Type 68 was manufactured with false Romanian markings so that when it surfaced in Somalia or Syria, it would take forensic expertise to identify it. These are not accidents. They are the consistent product of a state that decided very early that weapons were its primary export. The infrastructure that delivered an F-7 grenade to a kibbutz in southern Israel in October 2023 is the same infrastructure that delivered PPSH clones to Angola in 1975. It has never been dismantled. It has never been interrupted for more than a few years. And right now, funded by Russian technology transfers and battle-tested by a war in Ukraine, it is better resourced than at any point in the past 3 decades.